Well, let's return to the Philippines, and the country is mourning the death of former President Benigno Aquino, who served from 2010 to 2016. He was 61. Richard Haydarian is a political analyst and he joins us out of Manila. Richard, a sad day for the Philippines. He follows such a significant political dynasty in a way. His parents, his mother Cory was president herself. His father was assassinated for his opposition to the dictator Marcos. How much did his parents frame his approach to his presidency?
Well, from a personal experience standpoint, I mean, his life was really a difficult one. It was a storied and tortuous journey all the way to his presidency. And after, when he was young, he witnessed the assassination of his father in 1983. A few years later, in 1989, he himself barely escapes an assassination attempt on his mother on Malacanang by disgruntled military officers. I think there was a bullet actually stuck, or shrapnel of a bomb stuck inside his neck for the rest of his life. He could not take that out. So he had very traumatic formative years all the way until he became president. Let's not forget the circumstances of his presidency. He tried to remain in lines, tried to just be a low-profile congressman, and then by force he became a senator in 2007. But when his mom died in 2009, Cory Aquino, just a year before elections, suddenly the conversation changed and the country was looking for a new savior. And by the next year, this completely, low-profile person is catapulted to the presidency and launches this transformative brand of politics that I called moral politique, that he saw himself and his family struggles as a struggle of good versus evil, first against the Marcoses, and then by 2010 against the Arroyo administration. So that was his point. But he started very popular, but he raised expectations so high. So when he stepped down from office, he was met with so much disappointment and disillusionment, which created the conditions for Duterte's fall. So the past 4 years were also very, very difficult for him. I managed to talk to President Aquino 2 years ago before the pandemic drew the curtain on the world. And, honestly, he was very dejected. He felt that, yes, presidency is a thankless job, but the kind of calumny, torrent of hatred he was getting from people right and left, and seeing Duterte essentially demolishing whatever good governance reforms, whatever good image he brought to the Philippines, whatever efforts he made to stand up to China, that really bear on him. And I think over the past year, actually struggled to get through him to arrange any interview and all. Apparently, he was in and out of hospital. So it was not totally surprising, but there's still an element of shock. And, well, lo and behold, elections is next year. So there could be, once again, some 11th hour rally for the opposition Liberal Democratic Forces next elections. And that's why I think President Duterte and supporters are also watching very carefully this spontaneous, massive outpouring of support. I mean, how I wish they were doing that when he was alive. But on Twitter, on social media, friends of I who were critics of the president, some of them voted for Duterte. It's hashtag thank you, Noy, hashtag respect. Those are the things you're seeing online. So this was quite really something. You could see, we are in a very emotional country, and as a Catholic country, I won't be surprised people will have some theological reading into the timing of this very untimely passing of a former president.
Well, as you point out, it's almost this year to the next elections that almost then propelled him in that year from his mother's presidency to his own. Do you think it's going to give the country pause to consider the direction they have taken under Duterte?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's giving people pause to have a proper retrospective assessment of Aquino's legacy. I mean, he had a mixed legacy, right? He was not a perfect leader. I describe him as more a transitional than transformative leader, and the fact that his successor was his antithesis didn't help to fulfill a lot of his dreams and visions for the country. The country moved in a very different direction under President Duterte. But at the same time, I think, this could convince the vice president of the country, Leni Robredo, who herself became the vice president, kind of on sympathy for her late husband, Jesse Robredo, the Interior Secretary of Aquino, finally decide to throw her hat Her numbers in the surveys are not looking good. Duterte has all sorts of emergency powers and resources because of COVID-19 that he can leverage for the elections. His daughter, Sara Duterte, is the front runner in the surveys. It's going to be a very uphill battle, but I think this might just be the nudge that Leni Robredo needed to feel that this may be her historical mission. The Aquinos may be gone. I mean, some of the goosebump racing kind of memes we see is, a picture of Cory, the husband, and now welcoming their son. That, you can finally come home. So those are the things you see online. So now it's up to Leni perhaps to continue the legacy.
And is she the only possible person to pick up and run with that legacy?
Of course, there are many other contenders here. I think something that is interesting here is that what we can sense is centrist candidates can also benefit from this. I think there could be centrist candidates who say that, Aquino had his virtues, but definitely has its shortcomings. But Duterte is also not the way forward. I think we saw that this kind of authoritarian policy, maybe we need a synthesis that kind of combines the best elements of both minus their negatives. So I think certain people like the current mayor of Manila, Isko Moreno, even Manny Pacman is now distancing himself from Duterte and emphasizing anti-corruption. I think centrists could also very much benefit from this. So the people who may get hurt from this are the two top contenders for the next elections, Sara Duterte and Bongbong, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. So I think if you are in their position right now, you'll be a little bit worried about this outpouring, spontaneous shift in public opinion. But the grounds, maybe there'll be a groundswell, but much will also depend on the political skills of the opposition or the centrists to direct that towards a political change next year. So, history might not repeat, but it could rhyme if the opposition or centrists play their card very well. But so far, Duterte and his supporters have so many advantages. And just to emphasize this, with the possibility of the international criminal launching investigations under Duterte, the reality is that Duterte has all the incentives to game the next elections and make sure that the opposition doesn't take over. So that is also another element that could complicate this picture, that it may not repeat the past as many people expect.
Yeah, Richard, fascinating times. Really great to get your perspective on this. Thanks so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.